This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage, your place for all things Wisconsin sports. Now, your host, Trage.
How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming in here on this Saturday. I hope you guys are enjoying your Saturday so far here. I hope you guys have enjoyed your weekend since we talked this last Wednesday here on the show. A lot has happened since then. The Brewers got the opening day win against the White Sox. I want to talk about that today here on the show. Get into a little bit of Brewer talk. I have some questions that were sent into the show here that I was going over a lot of questions on Wednesday there on the show. And if you guys missed that, make sure you listen across the podcast platform. You can hear all the bold predictions and the questions heading into the 2026 championship season here. But I have a couple more I want to get into today on the show. So we're going to get to that. A lot of stuff to dive into. Ummer's going to stop by. We're going to talk some Packers. But right away, I want to start with the madness. March Madness, right? Basketball games galore still going on. Sweet 16, Elite 8 underway this weekend here. As I'm talking, there's some games happening right now here on Friday night, but there was a crazy game that happened between two Big Ten teams, Iowa and Nebraska. And I've got to say, I've never seen this before. I've never seen this before. And I don't think many people have. Nebraska had 4 players on the floor at one of the most crucial moments of the game. Under a minute to go, 3-point game. Iowa had the ball, and Nebraska came out of that timeout and only had 4 guys on the floor and led to an Iowa and one at the other end there. They just went deep and one at the other end of the floor, and the finish was what it was. Iowa walks away with it. They move on to the Elite 8 to take on Illinois. We're going to talk more Big Ten here in a second, but just a wacky way that game went. And the only thing I could find, because listening to Hoiberg after the game there, he said, he put it, I like Hoiberg as a coach. He's done a fantastic job with Nebraska. Like he said, he puts it on him. That's on me and this and that. Oh, man, though, that can't just be on Hoiberg, right? I know end of the day, he's the head coach of this basketball team and final say is his, and he's got to be the guy to notice this stuff too. I agree with all that, but it's also on guys on the floor too. I mean, man, you look around, you got to notice like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 4 guys out here, So it's on Hoiberg because he is the head coach. His assistant coach is sitting there too. There's guys on the floor. There's guys on the bench. Nobody noticed there was only 4 guys out there. Really? That's the only guy who is supposed to, I know Hoiberg's going to take the blame and this is on me. I get all that. But man, oh man, there's got to be ownership from everybody on that team to say, well, we should have noticed this too. The assistant coaches should have noticed. Hoiberg's thinking, okay, I just got my guys ready. We set up the defense. We were just talking about this. He's looking everything over, looking at what we're going to see out of Iowa here. And his assistant, what are his assistant coaches doing? What are the guys at the end of the bench doing? Man, oh man, it would drive me nuts. I know I'm sitting here as a Badger fan yelling about Nebraska stuff, but that was baffling. And the only thing that I could see online, because somebody asked them about it, they said, aren't the officials or do the officials have to tell you about that? And I saw many different, I went down a rabbit hole trying to find this, and I went into a bunch. There was official forums where people were asking questions on there, and then they were getting answers from others. And then I saw a couple instances where they were giving examples of what could happen. And technically, if one of the Nebraska guys would have came back in and would have hindered the play in any way, let's just say he came back in and ran up and grabbed the ball, something off the bench like that, it could have been seen as one way versus another. It could have been assessed as a technical foul. So there's a lot of different ways that it could have worked, but the officials technically don't have to alert you for only having 4 guys on the floor. They have to tell you if there's 6 because there's going to be a technical foul that's going to be assessed there. They tell you if there's 7 or, crazy amount of guys on the floor, but they don't technically have to tell you there's 4. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage at that point there. So from all my deep dives, I learned that you technically don't have to be, you aren't going to be alerted by officials. That needs to be on the head coach. That needs to be on the assistant coaches, players at the end of the bench, whatever, leaders on this team. It needed to be a household effort of guys seeing this. And just craziness that happened there in that Iowa-Nebraska game. So Iowa moves on to take on Illinois in the Elite Eight. And like I said, as we're talking, I'm watching some of these other games here. We have Michigan's in action, Michigan State's in action. But just even without those two, you still have Purdue moving on to the Elite Eight to take on Arizona. You still have, like I said before, Iowa taking on Illinois in the Elite Eight. You had a lot of Big Ten teams make it through the Sweet 16. And it makes the Badgers' loss feel that much worse. I might be that one person who feels this way. I don't know. There might be more out there. But I just feel like now watching this tournament keep going, you beat Iowa this year. You beat Illinois twice this year. You beat Purdue. You beat Michigan State. You beat Michigan. You've beat all these teams that are slowly moving on in March. And here you are getting bounced out of the first weekend again. And it just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. It makes it all feel that much worse. You're happy for the Big Ten, right? You're happy that the Big Ten is finding ways to push teams through, because it has been for a while now where they were kind of looking down on the Big Ten because they said, well, you guys have a good regular season teams, right? But you don't do good in March. And the Big Ten hasn't had a championship in a very long time. So it has constantly been this drag on the Big Ten. So to see some Big Ten teams make it through makes you feel great as a Big Ten fan. But as a fan of the Badgers, you're sitting here saying to yourself, why? Why not us? Why not us? Why Iowa? Why not us? It just stinks. It just absolutely stinks. And I saw a video, and it came off of a guy out of, I think it was Jim Rutledge there from ESPN Madison. And he had a take on the Badgers and where they're kind of sitting right now. And do we need to, essentially wrapping up what he said, you can look back at his videos and watch what he said there. But he said, do we have to lower our expectations for what the Badgers are here currently in with the NIL, because he said getting into March and them getting past the Sweet 16, they would be almost like a Cinderella team right now. They're closer to being a mid-major team at this point than they are to being a major team, to being a blue blood, right? And I don't think the Badgers are a blue blood team. Like I'll say that. I don't think they're a blue blood team. I think you'd be crazy for saying they're a blue blood team. But do I think they're closer to a mid-major team than they are? No, not even in the slightest do I believe that. Because when you look at this Badger team right now, what they've been able to do consistently here, I know they had a few years where they missed the tournament there, or they went NIT and stuff like that. I understand that. But what Greg Gard has been able to do with the Badgers here now over the past couple of years and been able to retool, really good players into the system at this point here, or help develop really good players. Who was John Tonje before he showed up at Wisconsin? But then when he was in Wisconsin, he was fantastic. Nick Boyd, before he got to Wisconsin, he was a good player. I'm not going to say that Nick Boyd wasn't a good player before Wisconsin, but now when he was at Wisconsin, fantastic. AJ Storr, best season at Wisconsin. Johnny Davis, look good at Wisconsin. You've seen guys come through now that have been great underneath the Greg Gard, great at Wisconsin. And it makes it that much worse when you look at what they've been able to do during the regular season, and to call them closer to a mid-major, I don't think so, because you went to Ann Arbor, you beat Michigan, you stomped Michigan State at home, in the Kohl Center. You beat Purdue on the road in Mackey. You beat Illinois in Champaign and in the Big Ten tournament there. You've beat really good teams. You've had a lot of really good wins over the past few years here. So to say they're closer to a mid-major, I don't agree with that. The lack of tournament success, I'll agree with that. They stink in March. Greg Gard stinks in March. That's plain and simple. They need to find a way to get over the hump in March. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And I've said it a million times. They're missing pieces on this team. What are they missing, right? You're going to go after every season. You're going to look back and you're going to say, well, and I get everybody who's probably saying right now, well, of course they're missing pieces, right? They didn't make it, so they got to be missing something. That's 100% the truth, right? They have to be missing something. I think they're consistently missing one big thing, and that is scrappers on this team. Scrappers. Just guys who are just going to go get it. Guys who are going to put it all on the line when it means the most. When it just, these teams that I'm watching right now that we're seeing, I feel like they don't have that edge when it comes to tournament play. I don't feel like they have that edge. Like they want it more than that mid-major team that gets in there, right? High Point. You look at the offensive rebounds in that game, and I couldn't believe, because Illinois was one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country going into those games against Wisconsin. And Wisconsin did a great job against them. And they have some really big guys on that roster, 7-footers. And then High Point, their tallest guys, 6'8"? And the Badgers allowed 13 offensive rebounds to High Point. So when you look back at these tournament runs and you look at these games where they play some of these you don't want to say lesser teams because I don't think High Point I don't think they're a terrible, like they're a good team. I think High Point's a good team, like a good team. They had a lot of good players on that team. So losing to High Point, if you lost and you would have had like a Sweet 16 appearance last season, you don't feel as bad. It's that constant losing in the first round, losing out of the first weekend that I think is starting to get to a lot of Badger fans and irritating a lot of Badger fans, is because you put together these rosters, you look good, and then you get to March and it falls apart. And now you have people that are saying that Wisconsin's closer to a mid-major because they can't get past the first weekend in March. I don't think that's the case. I think getting to March and being a consistent March Madness team or a tournament team and having consistent good Big Ten seasons is a feat. It's good. It looks good. Everything's great. Like doing all that there's something to be said about it, right? You can still call it a successful season, even if you don't have that major success in March. I still think there is success in the regular season. But now it's about with this team, with Greg Gard and this team, it's about how do you take that next step in March? I don't think it's as much of, well, this team's closer to a mid-major. I don't think that's the case. I think this team they just got to get tougher. And Greg Gard has to get guys who are tougher into this program. It's a really hard thing to do nowadays with the constant turnover, with NIL, with all of that you have to deal with. Now you're in a spot, if you're Greg Gard, where you're constantly dealing with the turnover and how do I replace these guys in my program? And then on top of that, you're replacing it with seniors, older guys, bringing them in. That's adding to the constant turnover. You can't just build from within as much anymore because guys are going to transfer out. If they don't play within the first year or 2 years, they're going to transfer out. They're going to go elsewhere. They want to get playing time. You understand it. Maybe they can go get money elsewhere, everything like that. You don't blame the athlete as much because they're allowed to do those things. But where the Badgers are sitting, and just to kind of wrap it all up into one, where the Badgers are sitting right now, I wouldn't say they're closer to a mid-major team. I would just say right now, they just stink in March. And now we're all just kind of losing our minds because we don't know what to think and how they get past that. And I don't know, because I felt like they've put together some pretty good teams. They just run into problems when it comes to March. No matter if they're hot going into tournament or not hot going into tournament, it's the constant same problem. And that's where I feel like this team, this program just needs tough guys. They need scrappers. They need guys who are just going to go out there and they're going to play physical and they're going to get after it and they're going to go get you that offensive rebounds. Those are the guys that this program's missing. And that's what I think flips the script for this team. I don't think it's a complete regime change. I don't think it's a complete blow up the roster. I think it's adding depth, adding pieces to this team, adding some tough guys. I really do. So do I think, like I said, I don't think this team is closer to a mid-major than they are to a major. I don't think they're a blue blood. I don't think they've ever been in that conversation of being a blue blood. I think they're a consistent tournament team. A lot of teams in the Big Ten would love to be where Wisconsin's at. And now it's just about Greg Gard and Wisconsin taking the next step. We'll see how he does it. We'll see how he builds this roster up going into next season here. We're going to see the transfer portal open up. We're going to see guys jump in. I'm just waiting, as everybody else is, to see what guys like John Blackwell and Nolan Winter and those kinds of guys do. We're waiting. Everybody's waiting to see that. So we'll see what happens there. But again, I think that's it's a bold take. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but that's where I'm at on this Wisconsin Badger program. It stinks to see the rest of these Big Ten teams moving on in March, but I think it comes with the toughness aspect. I think it comes with the coaching aspect, and I think Greg Gard has to be better about who he's putting into his program, because he's bringing good players into this program now, but I think it's about surrounding him with those tough guys, with those just workhorses, guys who are going to go get it. I think he's lacking that on these rosters right now. And I think if he addresses that, I think he gets himself over that hump, because you're seeing on these teams, these Big Ten teams that are moving on in March, they have those equalizers, right? The guys there's good offensive players on these teams, and then there's good defenders, guys who can shut you down, guys who can get after you, guys who are going to be tough-nosed players. And I think that's what this team's lacking right now. Because for every good offensive player, you could not have told me this last season the Badgers could have got you a key stop. I wouldn't have trusted him to get a key stop in a game. You needed the ball. If you didn't have the ball, I didn't trust them to get a stop. That's just that's just where I'm at with this team. Like, they just defensively never had it this year. And I think that's where you need to address. Right now, with this Badger team, Greg Gard's done a great job adjusting to the times and trying to work more of an offensive approach. I think he needs to find the happy medium. I think he needs to find a happy medium in between. I think he went too far one way, and now it's if they shoot the lights out of a building and they put up 95 points, they're going to beat anybody. But if they can't, they struggle. And we saw that all season long. When they're hot, they can beat anybody. When they're cold, and it's hard for them to find other ways to score, and it's hard for them to get stops. So that's why I'm saying you bring those tough guys into this program, because when you look at the rest of these Big Ten teams and how they've been able to do it, look what Illinois did, a team that's just absolutely fantastic offensively. They held Houston to 55 points, and they only scored 65 themselves. They played a grinded-out game. And that's where Wisconsin needs to find that happy medium where they can be that style of team too, where they can play both ways. They can get up the floor fast. They can hit shots. But in a game where it's a grind 'em out game and the shots aren't falling, they can still find a way to win that game defensively, get after teams. And that's where the tough-nosed guys gets into it. And that's where I think the difference between the Big Ten teams we're seeing in March right now versus the Badgers. I think that is my difference. So I don't think they're closer to a mid-major team, but I think there's adjustments that have to be made in the program, personnel-wise, and also in play style that I think will help this team over the top there. So when we come back from the break here, we're going to talk some Brewers. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Saturday. I want to talk a little bit about the Brewers now. Got the opening day win, 14-2 over the White Sox there. It was a fantastic way to start out this 2026 championship season, just because it made it feel that much better because the way that it started last season. And a lot of fans out there who were throwing in the towel after the first couple games, the first series, especially of the year, where the Yankees just completely put it on the Brewers. Now you see the Brewers start out a year where they just completely put it on the White Sox there, 14-2. I think there's too many people who take... Okay, so I saw a lot of people across social media talking about, oh, the Cubs lost, and the Cubs lost to, I believe it was who the heck did they play? The Nationals? I think they played the Nationals there. And they lost that game to the Nationals. And a lot of people coming out like, oh, well, the Brewers beat the White Sox and they were a terrible team last year. So they put it to them and that's why. And the Cubs, they lost to this Nationals team that stunk last year. And now they lost to them 10-4. And yes, they lost 10-4. So it makes any opening day terrible. And watching Matthew Boyd get lit up was awesome to see. And I'm glad to see the Cubs lose. I am. But I don't really take into stock, well, they should have beat this team because they stunk last year or blah, blah, blah. I really don't take it into that. The Cubs lost. Like, that's awesome. I love to see the Cubs lose. Like, that's awesome. And I love to see them lose to a team in the Nationals. I want the Nationals to be good. So maybe they're going to be good this year. I don't know. But I don't take it's just because they were bad last year that's what makes it so much worse. I don't think so. So anyways, enough about that. Let's talk some Brewers. Brewers get the win against the White Sox, 14-2. They just put it on them. And my favorite part of the entire game, my favorite, I guess, coming off this was Jacob Mizorowski's bounce back. That's what made me feel really good about him. Gave up the leadoff home run there. And then after that, struck out the side. And then went on to have a fantastic day, a fantastic outing. That's 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run on the game there, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks. But just to bounce back. Because when you see young pitchers, especially in a moment where, it's opening day, the juices are flowing, and you give up a leadoff bomb, you could see young pitchers who have control issues at times kind of fold, right? You didn't see that out of Jacob Mizorowski. And that made me feel great about the trajectory and what he could be capable of doing. Because it's not about always, what they look like in their best moments. It's about how do they bounce back from their worst? And that's what I think we saw in this game was Jacob Mizorowski bounce back from his worst moment, which was giving up that leadoff home run, and then striking out the side, and then going through the rest of those 4-5 innings of work there and just looking good the whole way through. That's what made it that much better. So I love the outing on Jacob Mizorowski. I love the fire, everything that he brings. He had an awesome outing. I'm glad he didn't try to reach back for 104. I know there was that deal that they made, Pat McAfee, I believe, and they made that deal that he would donate money to Jacob Mizorowski's foundation there. And that's awesome to see that he do something like that. But I'm so glad that he didn't reach back for a little bit more, because when you have a guy who reaches back for just a little bit more, sometimes that can lead to bad things, especially with guys like Mizorowski who are flamethrowers. It could lead to bad things. So I'm glad that he just said, I'm just going to go out here and pitch. I'm going to do my thing. You love to see that there. Jacob Mizorowski's got this really good ability where he can kind of control his fastball with the speed, right? Where he has that ability to reach back and hit 102, 101, 102. Like, he has that ability. But he also has that ability where he can dial it back a little bit and sit around that 99 and just cruise at that 99. So you love to have that, where a guy, he's got the ability where he can reach back for a little bit extra, but he also has the ability where if he's losing the strike zone, he can bring it back and he can hit it. And I love to see it. So Jacob Mizorowski, like I said, fantastic outing all the way around from him. Outside of that, just looking at the game as a whole, seeing the offense get rolling, like it was nothing. You know, you look at last season, the offense looked great. For a long stretch of games, they had a lot of promise there. And to see the offense just get it going once again, man, oh man, exciting stuff there. I did have a question that came in. It was about Mizorowski. We were just kind of talking about him and talking about, will he continue this stretch, right? He looked good in his first outing. Do you think he can continue there? What are some things he's going to need to improve on? Is he's sitting good right now? Question mark. I think he is. Like I said, I think it's all going to be in the mental aspect of the game for Jacob Mizorowski. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I really do. I just think it's going to be in the mental aspect about it, staying into the game, not getting where guys can get in trouble is with their emotion, right? If they get high, sometimes that helps. It brings a little bit more juice. You get a little more fire there. Like being present in the moment and being able to control your emotions is a big thing. So when I look at Jacob Mizorowski, I think it's about the mental side for him. And I think that's going to be the biggest battle for him throughout the season, because he gets very excited. He gets hyped up, but you see him out there when there's a bad call or he doesn't agree with the call, he gets really you don't want to say emotional, because you want your pitcher, you want your players to be in the game. You want to be emotional. You want them to show their emotion, but you also don't want to see him do a little bit too much complaining, right? To worry about the last call a little bit too much. And that's where I think what I like so much, and that's where I guess answering this question is, when I saw in this game the leadoff home run, it was like, okay, how does he bounce back from that? What do we see next? And I think that's what gave me so much hope for him now moving forward, is when he bounced back with the 3 strikeouts in a row, got himself in the inning. That's what made it that much better. So Jacob Mizorowski, I thought, had a fantastic outing, and I thought just all in all gave me a huge promise for what we're going to see moving forward. In the lineup, seeing Joey Ortiz come up with the bases loaded once again. When it happened, Christian was actually Christian. He comes on and talks Badgers. We text back and forth all the time, and he texted me and he said, "No way does Joey Ortiz come up with the bases loaded again." And bam, comes up with the bases loaded, hits that flare single to right, and I was like, "I will take it. I will take it." That might be the monkey off the back for Joey Ortiz going into this season, because to be the guy who leads Major League Baseball in coming up with the bases loaded, and just the kind of struggle that he had last season as a whole, to see him come through, I felt great for him. And now you see him, he went 2 for 3 in this game, so the beard's going to stick around. I know his wife doesn't like that too much from what I heard, but the beard's going to stick around for a while here. If he's got some hits in it, I'll take it. I'll take it, Joey. So 2 for 3. If that's how it goes for him, the beard can stay. You look good. You look good there. So Joey Ortiz has a good day for the Brewers there. I said it going into this season on Wednesday there. I was doing all my predictions, and I was talking about guys I like, and I said Hamilton I thought was going to be an underrated piece. He was going to be like like Pat Murphy said, he's going to be a breakout candidate. And I said it going into this season too. I said I really like what he can bring. And watching him down there in spring, so many hard hit balls, putting the ball in play. He's just a guy who gets on base. He's just a gritty guy. And his one out in this game, it was his best hit of the day. He flew out to the warning. He flew it to the wall. I mean, it was a good hit. It just missed it on the barrel. I think he's going to be fantastic. I love to see where they're going to kind of work him. He did play a little short in this game after Joey Ortiz was lifted from the game. They had Rengifo come in and play third, and then David Hamilton moved over to shortstop there. I am really interested to see kind of how they work him, if he's going to be in there at third or if he's going to kind of work into short a little bit there. I guess it's going to be who's hitting, who's not. If Rengifo's not hitting, you can see him more in third there. If you see Joey Ortiz kind of start to slump there a little bit, you can see him maybe in a shortstop for a stint. They want to keep Joey in because of his defense, so I'm not saying to bench him by any means, but you could see David Hamilton kind of work around there a little bit. Maybe you see Joey as more of a late in the game substitution at that point. I don't know what they're going to do, but I love what Hamilton brings to this team right now. Seeing Sal Frelick go deep is just Frelick hitting bombs is just magical. He gets it like when he gets into one, the swing is just I don't know. Yeah. What's the word for it? Chaotic, crazy, but just masterful all at the same time. Like he really gets into it. When he gets into it, he really gets into it and gets that back leg going. So I love to see Sal hit me some bombs out there. But lineup in total in this game, Jake Bauers just continues to mash. We talked about it. Could you potentially see him in the outfield? I think we're going to see more of him in the outfield. I think if not in the outfield, we'll see him into that DH role there a little bit, or Vaughn in the DH, then see Yelich get back into the outfield. I'm okay with Yelich playing the outfield. If they feel confident in his health and they feel as if he could go out there and help him out in the outfield, I'm good with that. I am. I think staying in the game, like I was talking about there, and I've said it before, I think with Yelich, keeping him in the game flow, keeping him in the game, I don't think it hurts him at all either. I don't. I think it keeps a guy checked in, right? Because when you're a DH, it's a different kind of animal. Everybody says, well, it's just going up there and hitting 4 times. It shouldn't be that strenuous. It's not. And I think that's partially the problem, is you're not really in the game. You're getting 4 at-bats a game. You hit every 2-3 innings, whatever it is, unless you're having a crazy day offensively. You're not hitting consistently, so you're just kind of sitting in the dugout hanging out. Then all of a sudden you're on the on-deck circle. Then it's your at-bat. Then you're going back to the bench. It's so not in rhythm. And when you're in the game consistently, when you're playing the field, you're in a rhythm and you're in the game and you're constantly doing something. And I think that also adds an element. So I'd be okay with Yelich kind of flirting in there in the outfield a little bit. That'd be good with me. So Brewers, all in all, offensive onslaught. Love to see it. Love to see it, especially, like I said, after the way last season started, to see this kind of start now. Not skip a beat, because there was a different kind of buzz, right? A different kind of atmosphere going into this year. You just came off an NLCS lost there to the Dodgers. You were that close. You had a record year last year. Everything looked great. Now going into this season here, you didn't lose a lot. I mean, you lost Freddie, you lost Durbin, you lost some good guys, some key pieces, but you didn't lose a lot, and you're returning a lot of talented players. Bryce Terang, coming off that World Baseball Classic. I was like, I can't wait to see what he's going to do for the Brewers this year. William Contreras, coming off of the World Baseball Classic, and then he just started mashing home runs. And then seeing, a guy like Vaughn in year 2 in Milwaukee, what he can do. Can he continue what he was doing last season there and help this team and push this team back into the postseason, back into the front of the division, and then back into the postseason there? Jake Bauers, the hot spring that he had, what can he supply? Garrett Mitchell, healthy. What can he do for the Brewers? There was just so much hype around this team and what they are capable of. And then all the outside noise. Well, nobody talking about them. They all, once again, down on the Brewers. They're not going to be able to do anything. They didn't go out and make moves. They traded away Freddie. They traded away Durbin. They're going to lose games because of that. And then, I don't know about this pitching staff, Brandon Woodruff. And then you have a bunch of young guys. Is Mizorowski good enough to lead this staff? Is Sprout and Harrison going to be good enough to back them up there? Yeah, I'm confident. I'm confident. I know they just played the White Sox, and I know you can't. People are going to say, well, it's just the White Sox. Don't take that much stock in them. And I heard a lot of people say, Pat Murphy's like, that's a good team over there. And he was talking about him after. And they're like, he has to say that. I don't think the White Sox are terrible. I don't think they're a terrible team. Do I think they're going to be a great team? No. Do I think they're going to be a postseason team? No. But do I think they're a terrible team? I don't think so. I think this is a solid team, a solid roster. Are they great? No. I don't think by any means they're great. Are they going to win over 80 games? No, I don't think so. But it's not like this is the worst team that's ever been constructed. There's some solid guys on that roster. I will say, there's some solid guys on that team. They have a lot of promise, I think. So I don't hate him. I don't hate this team. So let's see. I mean, just coming off of that game, now you have the White Sox coming up later today here. Should be another good one. Chad Patrick. There was people out there who didn't like my Chad Patrick take. I said that I really like Chad Patrick heading this year. They're like, I'm not as high on Patrick as you are. I don't know if I'm exactly, I don't know if I'm super high on him or going to say like he's going to be the best pitcher in this rotation kind of guy. I think Chad Patrick's just a dog. I think he's going to go out there. He's going to grind out games for you. He's going to do, I think he's like a 3 through 5 in your rotation. I just think he's set up in a number 2 because you have 2 rookies in the rotation, 2 young guys in the rotation. You have Brandon Woodruff, who you want to give as much time before he got his first start. So Chad Patrick just ended up as the number 2. That's just kind of what happened. It's not saying that he's the second best pitcher on this team. It's not saying that I think he is the second best pitcher. It's saying that this is where he got slotted in because of everything else that was going on. Could you have put Sprout in there? Sure. Could you have put Harrison in there? Sure. But this is where it ended up. And like I said, I think he's going to be a solid piece in this rotation for him just because I think he pitches with that kind of workhorse mentality. And I think he's going to do some good things for the Brewers this year. Looking at the AAA roster going into this year, though, looking at what they have down there, just the pitchers that you could talk about, Coleman Crow in there, Shane Duran, Robert Gasser, Logan Henderson's on that roster. A lot of good pitchers down in AAA, too. So they have a lot of weapons across the board in that pitching staff. But Chad Patrick, I think, is solid. I can't wait to watch him here in his first outing here today for the Brewers. But I have a lot to get into yet today here on the show. Next up on the show, Ummer's going to stop by. We're going to talk some Packers. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. Back into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. I'm your host, Trade, as we're coming back in here on this Saturday. We have a guy who's been gone for way too long, but he's back here. Don't worry, he's back. Ummer is back here today. Ummer, how are we doing on this Saturday? You've had like a week off. You're lucky I don't pay you because otherwise I'd fire you. You've had a week off here. How you doing on this Saturday?
I'm good, man. I can't complain, man. I'm just happy it's the weekend. It's pretty quiet off season for us in the Packer world. Just, taking in the quietness before the draft comes around the corner. And I'm good, man. How you been?
I've been good. Well, you haven't been here. So, I mean, we've been missing you here. We've been missing you. Like I said, if I was paying you, I'd be upset right now. But, I mean, we'd all have to get paid first before I could pay my employees here. But Ummer doesn't know about his contract yet. But his contract, we got to work through the negotiation on that yet. We got to work through the negotiation on the contract yet. But anyways, we have a lot to dive into today here with the Packers here. We're just going to, we're going to hit random stuff. Just random stuff. We're going to call it the Random Packer Hour, your Random Packer 14-minute segment. That's what we're going to call it here, not hour, because we don't have that long. But, Ummer, I saw an article out there, and I kind of want to talk about it. It just gave me an idea, so I just want to talk about it. Are the Packers having a bad offseason? So you see what they've kind of done. They got Benjamin St. Juste there on a 2-year deal. They grabbed up Hargrave there on a 2-year deal. Also Zaire Franklin in a trade there with the Colts. Got some other guys, some other pieces to bring along with that. But no, also don't want to forget Sky Moore, right? That's the piece I was thinking of. Sky Moore coming in there, the kick returner / wide receiver, but mainly a special teams guy coming in there too. So they grabbed some pieces. They brought some pieces back along with that. When you look at Brenton Cox Jr., Darian Kennard's going to be coming back there, Christian Welch, Jonathan Ford, Josh Wiley, some bigger moves, not really, right? There's nothing really big that they've done yet. Hargrave, I thought, was a good signing. I thought Juice was a good signing. So, but nothing major, right? And I think that's where a lot of Packer fans are saying maybe a bad offseason, nothing major. I think they're all, after Micah Parsons last year, now everybody just wants to see something major again. I don't think that's what you're going to get here. You'll get the departures. Rasheed Walker out the door, Romeo Doubs, Malik Willis, Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, Elton Jenkins, Nate Hobbs, Kingsley Enagbare, Colby. Okay, when you list the guys who've left, you kind of get nervous, right? Because you're seeing a lot of bigger name guys, I guess you could say, on that list, guys who you're not household names at this point here, but like Romeo Doubs, more of a household name, right? Elton Jenkins, part of that offensive line. You see Rasheed Walker on that list there. I think that's what makes people nervous, right? Is you're seeing a lot of your, I don't know if you'd say major pieces, but pieces that you've thought about for a couple of years now, at least. out the door, and you're not seeing a lot of that return at this point. So I guess that's where I think a lot of people may be saying that it's a bad offseason. I'm not sure, Ummer. What are you thinking? Has it been a bad offseason for the Green Bay Packers?
I don't think so. I think that they made all the right moves where they need to make the moves. I think there's a lot of addition by subtraction. It felt like we had people in positions that were maybe playing out of position, right? As much as I love Elton Jenkins, I think his truest position was left guard. I think Quay Walker was never, I don't know if he was properly utilized, or I think maybe he was just not right for the Mike position, right? And then, of course, we had a lot of other guys go out the door where you're like, all right, well, they got paid. Like Romeo Dobbs got paid, right? Malik Willis got a starting opportunity in Miami, even though Miami's like a complete fire sale. And we brought in guys who, you have Sky Moore, who's going to hopefully take care of our special teams, as well as be a fifth or sixth receiver, and also possibly could play the Tyler Irvin role as an orbit guy, because that's where he's done that in the past for in Shanahan's offenses. You have Benjamin St. Juste, who is probably considered to be one of the top cover corners in the league in his zone coverage, as well as he's very available. He's missed, I think, 0 games in the last 4 years. And he's also built like the way Packers will. 200 pounds, over 6'2". And I think he provides depth in a position where we saw a lot of turmoil, right? Keyshawn Nixon got exposed a lot. Carrington Valentine got exposed a lot. The only guy in the secondaries that were worth their salt was Evan Williams and Javon Bullard and Xavier McKinney. And again, we re-signed Sean Ryan, even though he's not like a person we brought in from the outside. He is a player that we kept, and he is a person I think is there as a stopgap. And I think they're still going to try to supplement that room by drafting someone. I'm hoping that they possibly look at the Iowa center, or they look at the center, Jake Slaughter out of Florida, or even possibly there's another guy out of Duke as well too. And just again, they put guys in position. And then, of course, you can't forget Javon Hargrave, who, he's 33 years old, brings familiarity with the scheme with Jonathan Gannon. He had his best years with Jonathan Gannon. And on top of that, too, he was a position of need, right? We need defensive tackle. We never really backfilled the TJ Slayton and Kenny Clark departures, right? And so bringing in a guy like him. And then, of course, I'm pretty sure they're going to supplement that room with another pick as well, too. End of the day, to me, I felt like they made all the right moves where they needed to make them. They do have a lot of money over the cap, so there might be another move on the horizon, or, this might give them an opportunity to extend some guys. Christian Watson's up for an extension. We just saw JSN get $42 million a year as a receiver, which is pretty wild, right? But again, the guy was literally he could have been the Super Bowl MVP. Was he a Super Bowl MVP? He was Super Bowl MVP, I think. Was he? No, Kenneth Walker was. Sorry, Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP. But he literally had one of the best receivers, one of the best seasons as a receiver, and he did probably maybe set the market for Watson. You already know that Jaden Reed's going to be coming up for a contract extension. Tucker Kraft's going to be coming up for another extension. And then we might need to look and probably even consider restructuring Josh Jacobs' contract. I just feel like we have opportunities to probably, extend some guys of our own that we want to keep their core players, and as well as have ability to maneuver up and down the draft when it comes to our compensatory picks we get next year. And I can't even talk. I forgot all about the Rasheed Walker. He was out the door too, and he kind of screwed up our compensatory pick because he only went for a 1-year, $10 million deal. But again, addition by subtraction gives Jordan Morgan an opportunity to play a left tackle. So I thought the offseason has been fine. We're still paying. If you think about it, the Packers are still getting out of the cap hits of Aaron Rodgers and other players, right? So for me, I'm okay with the way that Goody's gone about this.
I think, like I said before, I think a lot of people saw the Micah Parsons mega, trade last season there. And now it's, okay, what can we do next? What can we do next, right? We think we're close. What can we do next? And I think coming down to earth, it's about making the right moves and the right depth piece moves, because I think you're missing a lot of that, and bringing in veteran guys into a relatively young team who they're going to be one of the youngest teams once again, which is crazy to think how many years in a row they've been the youngest team. They just continue this rollover. And I think now they finally said to themselves, okay, what can we do to try and get us over the top? And I think it's bringing in those veterans like you just named off there with Hargrave, with Franklin. And there's still guys out there, and there's still guys that I'd be looking at when you look at guys like Calais Campbell, who's, I believe he's still out there and can be talked to. You talked about a guy named Cameron Jordan, the edge out of the Saints.
Yes.
Could you bring him in? Could you see a guy like Joey Bosa? None of those guys that you're going to list off are going to be Micah Parsons. They're not going to
No.
bring that same kind of, they're going to bring toughness. They're going to bring an edge to them. Are they going to bring that same kind of production?
Yes.
Maybe not. But you bring them into the Packers here. They have some young guys already talk. I mean, look at guys like Barron Sorrell. Everybody forgets the Packers have some pretty good young rushers right now. And you look at a guy like Sorrell, or you look at Van Ness, who we thought took a little bit of a step last year, but got hurt. So that didn't help him out at all. Also, Micah Parsons goes down and other guys go down. That Devontae Wyatt on the inside did not help out Lucas Van Ness at all, because then he's back to square zero with no help on the outside. So it didn't help him out at all. You have Brenton Cox coming back. So you're going to have some good pieces for depth. And I think adding to that is a big thing for this team. So I agree. I think they've done the right things to this point. Do I think there's more that they can do? Yeah, I think there's more they can do. I think the cornerback room, that's where I kind of want to hit next. The Packers cornerback room, I still think they desperately need help out there. I think they need depth out there. I think bringing in Benjamin St. Juste, I think it's a great start. Yeah. But do you trust that Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine can be those guys for you on the perimeter? I thought Valentine had a ton of upside, but if any team starts running the ball in his direction, he's not going to help out at all. No. Keyshawn Nixon, I don't know sometimes with Keyshawn. I don't think he's as bad as what people I don't think he's as bad as what people think, but I also don't think he's as good as what he thinks. I think he's somewhere in the middle, and I think they need to accept he's somewhere in the middle, and I think they need to find a way, whether it's through the draft, bringing guys in, and you can find some good corners in the draft. Finding guys in the draft or bringing another vet out there. I've seen pictures of Diggs and Micah Parsons working out yet together. Maybe you bring a guy back like Diggs. I know we only saw him for one snap last season. I still don't understand why they even got him for one snap, but you only saw him for one snap. You can work a deal out for him that's friendly. I don't think Diggs is going to be looking for a boatload, because I don't think he's got the production to ask for a boatload of money. I think you're going to be able to get him on the better side, maybe on a prove-it deal coming to Green Bay. Maybe you see him bring back a guy like that, but I'm looking all over the place on the defense for depth help. I really am. I'm looking at the defensive line. I'm saying I want some guys behind Hargrave and Devontae Wyatt there. You have Brooks. You have guys that are going to be in there. I'm not saying you don't have guys already. You have missing Stackhouse. I'm missing Brinson, right? Those two guys. But if you bring in a guy like Calais Campbell, that only shores up the center of that defense. And that's exactly where you need to shore it is up. You need to build from the inside out, from the line backwards, right? And that's where, looking at the offense, looking at defense, like you were talking there, going in the draft for some offensive linemen. I don't know if I trust Duke anymore after the Jacob Monk experience, because it's not working out with Jacob Monk. So I don't know if I want another center out of Duke. But all those guys out of Iowa, if there's a place to draft offensive linemen, you go to Iowa. Like, that's the place to look for offensive linemen, because they throw out a lot of really good ones. So that's where I would look. But a lot of good players to talk about there across the board. But like we said, I don't think it's been a bad offseason. I just think the Packers I think they're TD. Like, Ummer, how close do you think the Packers are? Like, honestly, like if you were to when I ask that question, like a realistic, I think the Packers are this close to, like, if I gave you a 1 through 10, how close do you think the Packers are to a Super Bowl?
I think that they are. I think they're probably one more, maybe two more offensive linemen, one defensive lineman, and one corner away.
Is that like a 7?
Yeah.
Is that like a 7?
Oh, sorry. I would say about 8. I would say they're 8. 8 out of 10. Yeah, 8 out of 10.
I'm like counting out the guys. You're like,
I'm
this guy's so 4. Like you're at a 4.
No, when you think about, like, Keyshawn and Carrington Valentine, for the most part, like, they didn't get exposed with our pass rushers doing so with Micah. And Micah's not going to play for the first 3 to 4 games, right?
Right. Yep.
And we need to get more talent in there. I'm hoping to God somehow Chris Johnson out of San Diego State University falls to the 52 pick, or we trade up to get him, because that guy's a beast. But personally, I think that, the Packers went way too far away from it last year. You know what I'm saying? We just sometimes get out of our own way, to be completely honest with you. And we have to play our best football when it comes to December or January. And we have to figure out a way to, obviously you can't account for injuries, but you just have to figure out a way just to be playing your best football and your healthiest football coming into December, January.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I'd be in that 6-7 range, right?
Yeah.
I think they got the quarterback to do it. I think they have the receiving core to do it. I did it to myself. Anyways, enough of that hijinks over there. I think they're. I'm gonna say 6. I'm not even gonna add another number in there. I think 6. I think they got the quarterback to do it. I think they have the wide receiver core to do it. I think they have the right stars around. Now it's about, like I said before, adding in the right depth pieces to fill in the gaps, because you only make it as far as your weakest link, right? Your team's only as good as your weakest link. And I think now the Packers have to address, what's the weakest link? How do we make it better? If guy gets hurt, what do we do? What do we supplement in there? How do we figure it out? And I think that's kind of last year where when Devontae Wyatt went down, the center of that defense got all screwed up. They didn't have any answer at defensive tackle to stop the run, anything. So I think that's where it kind of went downhill. And then you look at the pass rush room, you said, okay, once Micah Parsons went down, I know it's a huge blow to any team, but then what happened? They couldn't generate pass rush. And then the secondary got exposed. So what do we have to do? You hope Barron Sorrell is going to take that next step. You hope a guy like Lucas Van Ness can finally take that step for you. But I think it's adding those depth pieces in around, and I think that makes that number rise. And it's crazy to think you got the stars, you just need the depth pieces. And I think that's a crazy thing to think, is that's how close you are. And I think that's how close they are to being a Super Bowl team, is getting the right depth guys around them there who are going to bring that fire, bring that just every down mentality where they just keep bringing it. And that's going to start with Matt LaFleur instilling that in that team, but it's going to start with the rest of those guys too. So, Ummer, I got to run here. Let the people know where to find you out there across social media.
Yeah, you can find me at AMAR3455. Everywhere on Instagram, same thing, all that good stuff, all the social media platforms. And Trey, as always, man, thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you, bro.
Of course. We're glad to have you back after your week off of Ummer was everywhere but here. Now he's back. We're good. He'll be back Wednesday, so don't you guys worry. So when we come back, we're going to hit our leftovers. Who doesn't love leftovers in the fridge? We're going to hit our leftovers of the day here when we come back. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, as we're coming back in here on this Saturday. In the last segment of the show here, we're going to call it leftovers, right? Everybody loves leftovers. We're going to hit our leftovers here for the day. So we were talking a lot today. We got into the Brewers. We talked some Badgers. We got into the Packers with Ummer. Now I want to wrap it up here. We're going to hit our leftovers here. And our leftovers today are the Brewer questions, right? I didn't forget about you guys out there. I know I missed some questions the other day. I went back, I circled them up. So we're going to hit those questions real quick here to wrap up the show for the day. So first one, what players are due for breakout seasons with the Milwaukee Brewers? So I'm going to throw a couple of random names out there. Not really random if you're a Brewer fan, but guys who on the outside, you would not expect to have breakout years. I think Andrew Vaughn is going to have a breakout year for the Brewers. This guy and Andrew Vaughn last season coming to Milwaukee, nobody would have said, yeah, Andrew Vaughn's going to turn it on when he gets to the Brewers. But guess what? He did. Looking at what he did last season there, hit 308, had 14 doubles, had those 9 home runs, 46 RBIs. He was an RBI machine when he came over to the Brewers there. I expect to see Andrew Vaughn continue that. I don't think he's going to hit 308, but I could see him realistically being up near the top there. I could see him 270. I could see him in 280 range. I could see him being a catalyst in this lineup for the Brewers. So a breakout guy for me, Andrew Vaughn. I don't know what happened when he came to Milwaukee, but he found a different life. He found happiness. I think that's what it was. He got out of Chicago. When you leave Chicago, you just feel better about yourself. I think that goes with all sports, whether you play for the Bears or anybody else. You just feel better when you leave Chicago and go someplace else. That's what I think happened to Andrew Vaughn. He was under this microscope down there where everybody just hated the guy. Now he comes to the Brewers. He's got a statue where I'm going to build him a statue. King Vaughn. We're going to build that statue. I think King Vaughn is up for a major breakout season this year. So that's one of my guys. Number 2 on my list. I don't know if this is much of a surprise to everybody. I think he already technically had a breakout season, but I'm going to go Bryce Terang. I have to put him in there just because I put him in my bold predictions as being in the MVP conversation. I don't think he's going to win it because, Shohei Ohtani, ooh, he's still there. You guys know I dislike that guy. Everybody else loves him, so I have to dislike him. That's how I just roll with my life, all right? So you got Shohei Ohtani, so I don't think he's going to win it, but Bryce Terang's going to be up there, so he is definitely going to have a major breakout season. Jake Bauers. I know this one's going to be like, well, how can Jake Bauers have a breakout season if Andrew Vaughn's having a breakout season? They both play first base. How's that going to work? Jake Bauers can play the outfield too. And he can also, you can work some of these guys in the DH role if you have Yelich go play the outfield. So I think Jake Bauers is due for a breakout season too. He found something. He found something last year with the Brewers, and I think it's rolling over. We saw it in spring. We saw the exit velocity. We saw all the great things that he can do at the plate, and I think it's going to roll over into this season here, and we're going to see Jake Bauers have himself a breakout year. If I had to pick a pitcher for a breakout year, I have Sprout leading the team in strikeouts, so that would be a breakout guy. I think that would be a no-brainer breakout guy. If I had to pick a pitcher who's going to have a breakout season for the Brewers, I think I got to go almost bullpen. I think I'm going to go bullpen. I think if I'm going to go Angel Zerpa. I'm going to go Angel Zerpa. Nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to say Angel Zerpa is going to be the big name guy in this bullpen. But I don't know why I just got this feeling that Angel Zerpa is just going to be fantastic. So let's just throw Angel Zerpa out there. There you go. There's my pitcher who's going to have a breakout year for the Brewers. Angel Zerpa. I think there's lots of guys in the rotation that are going to be great. Like I said, I think Sprout's going to lead the team in strikeouts, and that doesn't mean I don't think Jacob Mizorowski is going to be right behind him there in strikeouts and looking fantastic. I think they're going to have a really good starting rotation. I think they're going to have a really good bullpen with Abner Uribe and McGill at the back end, and having guys like Jared Koenig and Aaron Ashby kind of sprinkled in there. But if I had to pick a random guy for a breakout year, I think Angel Zerpa is due for a breakout year for the Brewers. So I'm going to go with him there. Let's see here. What was the point in bringing back Gary Sanchez to the Brewers? Why not bring up a rookie? I think I've answered this before, but it's a fair question. Why do you bring back Gary Sanchez when you could just bring up Cuero, when you can have one of your top prospects come up to the big league level? I think it's really simple. I think you want to get Cuero as many reps as he can possibly get. And when he's at the big league level, he's sitting behind William Contreras and he's not getting consistent at-bats. He's not getting out there every single day and getting that kind of, consistency. I think that's the big thing with that. So I think keeping him down at the AAA level, I think that's good for him. Catching every day, being able to hit every day, being in the lineup, I think that's a big thing for guys. And, with their mental standpoint of the game too, because when you're riding the pine, when you're just sitting there and you get out on a Sunday or a Wednesday afternoon, you're not getting into a constant rhythm. And I think with a guy like Cuero, you want him to get into rhythm. You want to see everything he's got before he gets up to the big league level. And I think we're seeing good things at the minor league level. You just want to have him get consistent play, and he's not going to get that right now with William Contreras at the big league level. So I think it's a good thing to bring back a veteran. I know not a lot of people like Gary Sanchez, but it's a good veteran to bring back in. He's got some pop. He can do good things for you off the bench. You're not going to see him that often, so it's not like it's the end of the world for you. And if you run into a pinch, now you see Cuero come up. But as of right now, Contreras, you're setting up with Contreras that you're going to see him a majority of the time anyways. So at this point here, last season, I was just going to check how many games he had last season there behind the day. He had 150 games he played in last season, and that was with a broken finger. So I'd imagine if he's healthy and he's going well, I'd imagine you're going to see him in that same boat there. So you're looking at Gary Sanchez for at max 20 games that you're going to see Gary Sanchez. I think you're sitting in a good spot at that point. Reese McGuire was also in there. I don't think Reese McGuire was going to be even a worse option at the plate than Gary Sanchez. He's going to be okay defensively. I don't think he was a better option offensively for the Brewers. So I don't think it's a bad move all the way around bringing in Gary Sanchez. It's an odd move because you think to yourself, why do you need to bring him back? You have good guys in this system at the catching spot. End of the day, like I said, I think it's about getting Cuero consistent at bats and at the same time being able to keep Contreras in the lineup and having a guy just sit on the bench that you don't really have to worry about the future. You don't have to worry about Gary Sanchez is part of the Brewers. You want to like Gary Sanchez. I'm going to like Gary Sanchez because he's on the Brewers. But at the same time, you're not really worried about the future of Gary Sanchez and getting him that consistent play. He's good on the bench. That's where he's going to stay. So there we go. There's my last Brewer questions that I didn't get to the other day. If you guys want to send over your Brewer questions, Badger questions, Packer questions, make sure you hit up the text in line 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914, or hit me up on Twitter or Messenger on Facebook, wherever you can find Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Hit us up over there with all your questions. So with that, that's about all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday and the rest of your week, or weekend. But until we talk to you guys again next Wednesday at 5, see you.